I have to admit, I started as a rock musician, and I had really long hair, and it was my first experience in prototyping. So obviously I started at the age of 14, and we had a band and all, and I would go on stage, and we would try the new songs every time. So my band members would always tell me, why are you showcasing the songs before we actually have the album launched? And every time we'd go on stage, play the songs, and people would give us feedback. And we'd change and arrange these songs every time so that they would actually fit better what the crowd was wanting to hear, or whether it should be faster or slower or stronger, a longer chorus, a shorter verse. And by the end of a couple of years of concerts, we managed to be for 12 weeks on top of the charts. So I know this has nothing to do with precisely what you're doing now, but in a way, in every creative field, there is user testing, right? When you cook something, who here cooks? Oh, that's loud, guys. Come on. When you cook something, you taste it, right, before you serve it. So prototyping is about that. I'll give you a bit of a background about myself. I'm a professor at UCL. I teach prototyping. I'm also the founder of White sur White. Some of you might have heard of the company. And White Lab, which is a startup that we launched that does biomedical engineering with special focus on asthma and allergy. Anyone here has a startup or is looking to launch a startup? 1, 2, only 2, 3, 4, 5? You're shy about it. So I've been teaching for a few years now. This is my students showcasing their work at Baalbek, the temple of Bacchus, I think. So these are second-year students that had no experience in design and yet had to showcase a full hour and 45 minutes of show in front of about 3,000 people. So how do you go from a classroom all the way to thinking and prototyping to a finished product? So this is the workshops we give every year. We teach people critical thinking, design thinking, Agile, etc. I know we're in the Agile scene here, but there's a lot of design thinking in what we do as well. So every year we help students and non-professionals deliver products with simple, dirty engineering. We'll get into that a bit later on. So I'll tell you a bit about my background before we delve into prototyping. White sur White is an innovation consultancy. We do products for the Fortune 500s. You can check us up online. We've developed a lot of IoT, a lot of products, a lot of fashion, a lot of things you're going to see in this presentation. So the particularity about White sur White is that it's about doing. So we always have products on showcase in our offices that we've built. And in addition, we have an exhibition space. But most importantly, we have a workshop. We have 600 meters square of just machines, tools, materials, no computers, just places where you can test products, see how users react to them, build them quickly, and iterate them. This is a typical workshop we give. So people, students or professionals are actually working with their hands and getting things done and then testing them. Last year we gave a workshop on toys for refugees that could be hacked. So basically the idea was to create a toy that the kids could easily replicate so that they would rebuild for their friends. And it came with a whole lot of instruction that was very easy to use to implement. Another startup we launched, we just won yesterday. This is why I was a bit late, because we won yesterday night at Hello Tomorrow. So it was cool. So White Lab does products. So this is a very good example. This is a spin-off from one of White sur White's ideas. Anybody heard of White Lab? Okay, good. So basically this is how you go from an application to a product and a dashboard. Unfortunately, you can't see it very well here, but it's a full solution for people who have asthma and allergy. It's an application you can download. We'll get into how we've prototyped the application as well. But basically, it's a full solution from the back end all the way to the front end with the UX, UI, the product design, the electronics, the engineering, the whole thing. There's also obviously the marketing, the sales, the business modeling, etc. So let's get back to prototyping. Now that you know a bit about myself, a lot of people say you have to build an MVP. I don't know how knowledgeable you are in MVP, startups, etc. Are you familiar with everything I'm saying? Anyone's bored so far? Come on. Okay. So I don't want you to build an MVP. I want you to build a minimum awesome product, because if it's just a viable product, nobody needs another chair, nobody needs another application, that helps you deliver food, unless it's really groundbreaking. So the point of prototyping is to really dig into user insights and understand where the true problem is. So back in the 80s, the city of Paris decided to solve the problem of the homeless, right? So they built these huge buildings, and they went on the streets and told to the homeless, you know what, you're not homeless anymore, now there's a home for you. And they took all these homeless and put them in these, it wasn't even HLM, it was specifically built for the homeless, and put them in it. They solved the problem, right? But little did they know that after a few days, these guys left the houses and were back on the street. Anybody knows why? Because their problem wasn't the home. They were feeling lonely. They were lonely, they didn't want to stay alone at home, and being on the street gave them a daily interaction with people. So fundamentally, before building this with your startup or your business, ask the questions, understand the problem. And this is very common because people build products nobody wants. There was the same issue in Africa, where this anthropologist and the engineer went, and I think it was in the Maasai tribes, and they started building pipelines for water to get to the villages. Anybody knows the story? So it's pretty funny because, obviously Africa is a big word, but some countries and some cities of Africa needed water, so the villages, so they brought the water in. After a few days, all the pipes were broken because the women didn't have their only time during the day where they could meet and have a conversation, because that was when they were going to pick up the water for the men. So it's crucial to understand the problem, the context, and why we're building things. So to get more into the methodology, typically what I see, and I have about 85 students every year that are doing startups. So about every year I have 85 students and I mentor about 50 startups. So that's about 145 companies that are going to market. And they come to me, and the first thing I see is a proven concept, a functioning concept, right? They come in, they show me something, like this guy wants to, okay, I'm not going to say it's to me, but anyway, I see concepts that are completely outlandish, of solutions that nobody wants, because they haven't taken the time to start at the very beginning, which is, why are you building this? Who's involved? What are the influences? Is there people in the experience that needs to be understood, ask questions? Are you identifying the right teams, the right problems, the right context? And then you build a prototype. What's interesting with prototyping is that it validates a lot of things and it invalidates a lot of things as well. So if you have a good product, if you have the skill, or if you have the market, a prototype will show it immediately. And a lot of you think a prototype is perhaps a final product, but a prototype can be, we can build prototypes today just with a pen and paper of a whole application, right? You outline your phone and you start drawing inside all the screenshots that are going to be. You take pictures of those screenshots and then you test it on your phone. And you have XD, Adobe, I don't know if you know Experience Design, Adobe, etc. to link we'll talk about this later on. So some of you might have a great product, but no skill to build it. Some of you have the market, but not the product yet or not the skill. So each one of these, and I also give talks about entrepreneurship and investment, each one of these will determine how much money you need. If you don't have the skill, you're going to have to hire engineers. If you don't have the product but you have the skills, you're going to have to pay on, well, product development, but also understanding what the problem is and the market is. And if you have both, but you don't have the high demand of market, then you have to do sales. So it's very important as you prototype that you keep your eyes on these three things to know how they're going to come into play with your product. So this is what I was saying. Testing is crucial because it will allow you to validate the business model, branding, pricing, marketing, paint, solution, design, strategy, go-to-market. And this is just a few things that you will validate. And as you validate them with testing, you will get an iteration. And you will understand from user feedback how these are going to change after you've tested. But this is crucial for you to truly improve your product and iterate. And as you test your product, so what we like to do is we have 3 people interviewing people testing products. I think it was your co-founder that did one of the testing on our app. He's in the picture afterwards. So it's important to see what people think when they're using your product, what they say, what they feel, and what they do. Because people are polite, they don't want to be mean. They say, oh, it's a great product, etc. Then you want to buy it. You go, oh, yeah, maybe. But obviously, you go to market, and it's a flop. You have 23 downloads, and you're like, okay, that's not going well for me. So it's important to be unbiased. So what we do is we have a team of 3 people. One is taking notes, the other one is filming, the third one is looking at physical cues, the body language, etc. We take pictures, we sketch, we try to observe and understand without giving any interpretation to that. It's a stupid, silly, simple way to absorb information without interpreting it. And this is the best way to do it at first. But it's out there. It's not here with you, with your mom, although the mom test is a phenomenal test, if you know it. But life is out there. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Do you guys and girls know these companies? Zappos, DoorDash. Dropbox, I can imagine. So DoorDash, for instance, started in Silicon Valley. And what they did is that they set up a simple website, anything you can build on Wix or Squarespace. And they put the menus of all these restaurants in Palo Alto. And they started, with a number. And people started calling them to get food ordered, right? That was the simplest prototype you could ever build. It's a one-pager, number, menus. I mean, I think anyone here could build this. And first day they got 2 or 3 calls, then 7, then 10, then 20. But the most important lesson is that it was something they were building that people wanted. DoorDash is the equivalent of Deliveroo, if you know it. Do you know Deliveroo as well? Uber Eats. Basically, it's a delivery service for restaurants that don't do deliveries. Zappos did the same thing with shoes and started taking pictures of shoes in shops and posting them online, and they started getting orders. And this is the crucial thing, is that they would actually build the prototype before they would build the team, the infrastructure, the investment. They would see if this is something people needed, and that's crucial. Is anybody building a product here at the moment? You want to tell us about it? Tell us about your product.
Yeah, our product is unique. We have a startup. We are trying to bring the technology to local shops in North Carolina. To local shops in North Carolina.
Okay.
You have a shop and you want the people to know about the product price from the menu of your restaurant or whatever items you are selling inside the shop. And we are building the platform for local shops on mobile.
And how do you monetize?
Subscriptions.
Okay. And what about you?
We looked up from the
The POS? iPad. What Applebee does. Applebee's does that.
So
Yeah.
we looked after the what's out there, and we decided to do something more interactive with those,
So I tried that software, and I was in Palo Alto a few weeks ago, and I was at Applebee's because I wanted the proper steak. It wasn't the proper steak. But anyway, so they have these iPads, and then you order your food, great, and then they suggest you play, right? And it's a couples test or whatever. I was there with my wife, so we did that couples test, and then with the bill, we had $1.99 for playing the test, and that was really low. So I'll never use this again, but just so you know that it can be very tricky sometimes. Okay, so a great way to test your solutions is to actually try it, do it. Like before you build the whole application, do a simple website, lay it out, and see if people are actually interested in those things. Like if people start ordering stuff from your website, although your monetization system is subscription, maybe you need to reconsider your business model, right? Unless there's a longer-term revenue that you're looking for. So that's what's crucial. Is truly, exploring what people want, what's happening in the interaction, defining those things, generating ideas from there, and idea generation is very easy when you talk to people. I come from a field where I'm an industrial designer by trade and an architect, but I come from a field where ideation is like the simplest thing you can ever do. I can build like 20 business models in 20 minutes because this is what we do, right, as product designers. But a lot of people struggle with that, and the reason is because they don't listen to insight, they don't listen to people, they don't go and ask questions to get the proper prototype, to test it, and then iterate. And this is a continuous loop. So a lot of you will tell me, yeah, but my product's already on the market. But Facebook still, that is a 1 billion, 1.2 billion people, users company, is still giving a feedback loop, is still doing these user testing, are still trying to develop new products like Workplace. I don't know if you guys noticed that they launched Workplace. You want to say something? You're good? By the way, if anybody has questions, please just shoot them, yeah? So the question is when to build the prototype. So there are different stages in your company life. It could be at the very beginning because you're looking for investor money. It could be because you're testing something. I'll show you some products we've developed. This one in particular was quite time sensitive because we had 6 months for the product to be on the market because the person we were building it for had only 6 months to live. So this is my diving goggles, okay, and this is a Kinect, the camera of the Kinect that we took apart to test something that we wanted to validate. Can we help somebody control a computer with his eyes in less than a month? And we started with this camera and we started programming the backend. And after about a month, and a $5,000 spend, we built a product that worked, that allows you, and it's free online if anybody has somebody who has myopathy de Duchenne, who has foot paralysis, that allows you to control a computer with your eyes. Can you hear me well?
For the camera.
For the camera, oh, I'm sorry. But the crucial thing is that we started with a rough prototype. It was goggles, it was a Kinect, and then they ended up with something that actually looks okay. Because we didn't have the time to, polish the design, spend hours on 3D, and then see if this is going to work with him. We really started rough and dirty, and it worked. So a lot of people, are taken aback when they see that they need to build something with their hands. The rule of thumb is your hands are always smarter than your brain. No matter what you think, the moment you're building something with your hands, although you've forgotten, but you spent about the 10 first years of your childhood doing only this, and you have amazing capabilities with your hands that you need to explore again. So when we build a prototype, this is for somebody you know as well, a company called Sliter. They do smoking cessation, basically to stop smoking. So we developed their designs for them, the new one, not the old one. So it started with a sketch. very basic sketch. But then very quickly we jump onto prototyping, right? So the sketch is printed, then it's folded, then we cut cardboard, then we try it with blue foam, and all the way down to the electronics. And starting like this, you end up with something that looks actually not too bad, right? So it's important to know what material you're going to use. In this case, anybody can print, take a picture of a sketch, try different sizes. So this was truly to see if the lighter would fit in the hand. This one was too big, as you notice, it's getting smaller here. And this was the PCB, so we had to fit the hand and the PCB all together so that it would work properly. So the other question is, for whom is the prototype? Are you prototyping for your team? Is it so your boss can see, whether this application is going to be, good to launch on the market? Is it for a VC? Is it for a user? It's very important to differentiate those things. Don't prototype just to prototype. As soon as you put a target, everything changes. If it's for a VC and he wants to see how you detect particles in real time in the air and analyze them, then they don't care about the physical look of it, right? They want the engineering behind it. But if you're prototyping for somebody who wants to, or a big company that wants to launch a new application and they know they can make the engineering because they have all the resources, then maybe the graphics and user testing is more important. So it's very important to differentiate those things. If it's for your team, very often, the developer doesn't know what you have in mind as a UX UI designer, right? Any developers here? Oh, wow. So I'm sure you guys get, outlandish, requests from your designers. They go like, yeah, I want this, I want that, and you're like, dude, I need to connect this with the backend, and my SQL is not made for that. So I need to change all the backend because it has to fit with the front end, right? I mean, this is like, these guys, they have no idea of what they're talking about, and yet they want you to do miracles in 2 days. So having a simple prototype that you test and you show your teammates is going to save you a lot of time iterating, a lot of work, a lot of back and forth. Even at the very beginning, as a developer, you know if it's a NoSQL or SQL or what kind of database is going to be, etc. I don't know if you guys resonate with that. I know I have this issue with... So this was another product we developed. This was, we actually represented Lebanon at the Francophone Games. So initially we built this as a solar cell that helps people who have problem with electricity remove generators subscriptions. So you just put this on your balcony and it replaces all the electricity you need from generators in emerging countries. So we actually built the whole thing because we had to showcase it in France. So this is another example where we're building a smart tray that allows companies like Ferry to have a reorder. So it's called Recurio. So basically, it reorders your ferry for you or whatever PNG product wants to have on a recurring, payment with you. So as soon as the ferry is empty, it just reorders the new one, and you get it delivered the next day. Yeah, it's like the button, but this one is a smart one. You don't have to press it; it just orders itself. Because, as you might know, maybe some of you are in the consumer side of things. The biggest problem with these brands is to keep the customer, because you buy an Oral-B one day and then you go to a Colgate the other because you don't make a difference between a toothbrush and the other. That's why they sell you 2 of them, so that you get used to that toothbrush, and you register the brand. So about the mock-ups, it's truly being very often when you prototype early, just be quick, dirty, and efficient. Grab these things, fill them up, cut them off, try them, Is it working? Is it not working? Show it to people who have no idea about the product. Do they recognize what it is about? Do they understand what pain you're solving or not? And this can easily, you can easily take pictures of these shots and put them on your phone, right? Crop them, put them on your phone and test it. If you're into product, any physical products here? Wow. 1? 2? What's your product? Okay. As in في قطعات كهرباء?
Yes.
Okay. And how about you? Sorry, who's the other product? Yeah.
Diplomat.
Sorry?
Diplomat.
What is it?
It's about the data centers connectivity.
Okay. No other physical products here? I think there was somebody I spoke to earlier that has a... No? So physical products are, well, now in your case, it's not a consumer product that they're going to use with their hands, right? Unless it is. Is there a remote, etc.?
There is a smart side of it.
Okay, so the remote is on the phone and the rest is in the back end, yeah. But typically when you're doing for the front end, and I won't linger on the front end if none of you are interested in it, but you know, you can very often download pattern of things online. It's pretty much like GitHub for coders, but for designers, and you can very easily prototype a shoe, even if it's out of cardboard, and you know, it's not the shoe you're going to be walking in for the whole day, but you can test it, see if it works, if the height is good, put some foam in, and it's very, very easy, quick and dirty, but it works. And it allows you to discover things you would never think of. And this is the interesting part about prototyping. So like the guy from Zappos that did his, started his company, you're able to validate things you couldn't even think of, right? If people return your product, what happened? Do you know Zappos? Zappos is an online ordering for shoes. And it was bought by, can't remember, it sold for $1.2 billion. And when Zappos started, the insight was people are willing to buy shoes online, right? I mean, anyone buys shoes online here? Okay, 1, 2. I bought shoes online once, and I never could wear them, but anyway. The thing is, validating this insight is crucial because, I mean, you can have the biggest collection of shoes in the world, right? But nobody is willing to buy it because it's online and they want to try it first. So it was a very, very difficult insight to validate. And as he validated it, he realized things like, okay, people are going to return shoes 2 or 3 times rather than just 1 time, and it's going to be more frequent. So he had to put this into his business model. He also started developing all this sizing and testing for size of the shoes even before you buy the shoes, so you can actually have them fit properly. So testing and iterating. This is what you guys tested. So this is the first version of Sensio Air, which is one of the startups we launched. So we went to users and we filmed them using the app, and it was painful. It was so painful because they would struggle to put their birth date. It was too fast, too slow, not the right transition, and so a lot of frustration came from us seeing the users try the app after we've prototyped it. After we actually built it, we had the whole app built, and it was a lot of work, right? So we started filming our users trying the app, and now we're launching a whole new, completely different application. You guys, so who's working on an application here? Okay, significant amount. Do you guys know Adobe XD, Experience Design? 1, 2. You guys, it's super, guys, and I say guys, it's guys and girls, yeah? It's super easy to test. I don't know, you know Sketch? Sketch, anybody? Okay. Even with simple screenshots, you can, like the ones I showed you, you can simply, this is Adobe XD, and you can link all the buttons so that you can actually browse the application as if it was real. And this is a very, very efficient way to test anything you have. I'll always test it with my team, always send it to, you can send a live link, they can test it online, get feedback, so it's really useful. Any questions so far? Yeah.
It's just about the interface, right?
Yeah, it's purely interface, but as soon as you start interacting with the interface, you realize how many screenshots you're missing, what's in the backend that's missing, and at least the developers can actually have a look at what's going to happen with the application. I don't think it's available yet for Windows, by the way. Yeah, it's coming soon. Is it available for Windows? Do you know? Nobody knows? Because I'm on Mac, so yeah. So what to prototype? So we've built a violin for a client of ours. Any musicians here? Okay, cool. So I love designing musical instruments. I worked with Yamaha and designed a few musical instruments. One of the first I did was wireless bracelets that converts your body signals into music for non-music players. So I had this challenge of building a violin, which is probably the most complex instrument you can ever build. So we started with some sketches. And as you see in the back here, it's a 3D print of the violin. And if you notice the blue dot here is actually Play-Doh, patamodé, that we actually had to put on the violin to validate when the violin player was holding the violin, how his grip was happening. So before we built the very expensive $20,000 violin, we were able to test it with 3D printing and Play-Doh. This is one of the results. It's why are you building a prototype? Sometimes I had I don't know if you know Tony Wellett, maybe some of the girls here might know him, the fashion designer, that came to me and said, hey, I have a haute couture collection I'm going to present in Paris, and you know what? I want these, very flashy, very striking accessories for my couture collection. So we were prototyping, so it was one piece each, but it was for an imminent show that was going to be under all the cameras of the world. So we started working with different materials, different shapes, and in the end we got to that, which is a clutch and a bracelet. So this is completely irrelevant to software, right? But in this case, we had to prototype a polished, finished product that actually looks good for the fashion designer to show on the runways. And that was last year on the Haute Couture Week in Paris. So we're getting close to the end. I'm going to recommend a couple of books. Any of you read those books? Yeah, which one? Lean Startup? Great. Who's read the Lean Startup? Yeah, I mean, this is like a really go-to book that you have to read. It'll save you a lot of money, it'll save you a lot of pain. What I love as well is Hooked, for those people working on interfaces. And universal principles of design are very good. There's about some of the Pareto principles. You see some physical, some digital, some graphic design. But it's a good overall knowledge about if you're not a graphic designer, if you're not a product designer, it can give you some headers. Hooked is pretty good. The startup shipping greatness is more for if you're going to go to market. And my personal favorites are, I love Art of the Start. If you have a startup, Guy Kawasaki is phenomenal. He just says it as it is. And if you have an issue with your business model and you want to build a subscription model, Automatic Customer is phenomenal. The two others, I guess, they're just for the physical products. So for the two of you who are actually working on that. So yeah, that's it. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
How did you do this
2 years ago?
2 years ago?
I started working on 3D printing in 2004. There was 3D printing then, so you could still do it, and that's a very valid question. You can simply take foam, blue foam, and build it. Right, and you can test it, and then you can put this foam in a cast and just cast it. That's very, very easy to do. 3D printing for me is not a huge solution. It's a good solution when you don't know how to actually do things or build things. But it does not replace actually like the lighter we did, foam. We didn't have to do a 3D print of it. Now we're doing 3D print because they're going to manufacturers and they want to validate the injection points, etc. But I won't get into detail on manufacturing. Other questions? Yeah?
The device that you built for
Yeah. Eye tracker. AI tracker. Just get in touch. I'll send you a copy and you can use it if you want. Oh no, I'm just I wish. I'm just saying there's architecture for humanity, open architecture, where you find buildings, but for products, now a friend of mine in the UK is building an engineering GitHub where you can basically download electronics and iterate. But no, it's not yet there. But you'll find a lot of templates online, plenty of them. Yeah. Anyone? Any other? Yeah? Designing what? On the contrary, and this is what I was saying, whether it's an old product or a new product, the most beneficial way to actually go about rethinking a product that exists is this little graph that I showed. Is you've tested your product. So what's your product? Okay, so go there, wherever, do you have clients already? Film them. Film them using it for a whole day. And you'll discover so many things, because you'll see how where people, have dead ends, where they just drop, where they just get frustrated and leave. And then you can improve, and you have to do this every time. Other questions?
Excuse me.
Yeah?
The name of the company,
Yeah.
what is it?
It's Malevich's first painting, that's Carré Blanc sur Fond Blanc, which is the beginning of abstraction in contemporary art, if that's of interest. Yeah?
We have a platform that we're hoping to be used on a daily basis. We want to ask, what do you propose to make it easier for the user to enjoy YouTube?
And what's your platform?
It's an event platform.
An events platform?
It's an application to be used on iOS and Android.
So there's a great talk from, do you know Y Combinator? Do you know Stanford?
Yeah.
So Stanford and Y Combinator gave a talk together, and it's about 10 or 12 videos that you can find. Sorry? How to start a startup. And the video given by, I think it's the 8th speaker, is specifically how to make these things fun. So he had this great example where, as you would log in the website, you would click on the login and you'd have a dinosaur going, roar, And it's just, it's the first impression. And this is something I didn't get into today because it's not about creating products or prototyping. But a very good way to see things is an existing product is like a marriage, and a new product is like dating. As a new product, you're giving the first impression, right? What's the first impression you're giving to your consumer? Is he going to smile? Is he bored? Is it boring? It's like you meeting a girl for the first time or a guy for the first time. If you're going to come in and start talking engineering, probably not, going all the way tonight. But if you actually, are witty, funny, smart, etc., and actually take time to listen to the other person, you're going to have a difference. Okay, yeah. It's how to start a startup. Thank you. Yeah. You mean collecting data from crashes, etc.? It won't, but this is precisely prototyping before you're on the market. Once you're on the market, I think whatever functionalities they're asking for, you need to always if you're going to invest a lot of time of your time on something, at the end of the day that won't lead somewhere. And this is really strategy and how you're going to lead your product strategy further down the line. Unfortunately, I think there's another speaker after me. Thank you very much.